Hello and welcome to Builders. In today's episode, we have the pleasure of welcoming Angela Ferrante, the CEO and founder of Laudable, a company transforming how B2B organizations leverage customer satisfaction to fuel growth. Angela and Laudable discovered a significant untapped opportunity, transforming traditional static PDF case studies into dynamic, impactful customer success stories. This realization sparked the creation of Laudable, a platform designed to uncover happy customers already talking about their positive experience in call recordings, capturing these authentic endorsements to empower sales and enhance buyer engagement. Angela's vision has led to Laudable being dubbed the customer love journey, the customer love company, a testament to its success in making customer satisfaction a core driver of business growth. Join us as Angela shares her insights on the power of customer stories and how Laudable is helping companies unlock a new channel for growth by amplifying the voices of their most satisfied customers. Angela, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast. How's it going?
Hey, that was awesome. Thank you so much for the intro and great to be here with you.
Thanks so much for joining. First, let's get started. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What came before Laudable?
Yeah. So right immediately before Laudable, I was at another startup, and that was sort of my first jump into actual startup life. So it was a company in the energy tech space, and I was on the founding team. So there were 5 founders, an employee, and me. And that was for about 5.5 years. I was a CMO, so running sales and marketing for most of that time, and then marketing at the end of that. And that was sort of the playground to make all the startup mistakes and really get the bug of wanting to do it over again, learning from those mistakes and make new ones, of course.
Fantastic. So your background is mainly in marketing and sales, is it? Or?
Yeah, so I had sort of a non-traditional journey into marketing, which was that I started out, my first job out of college was in finance at Morgan Stanley, and then very quickly realized way too big of a company for me. Went to an energy insurance company, which in some ways was a startup in its own right. There's about 25 people there when I joined, based out of Boston, and we were insuring energy companies, so like fuel haulers, propane dealers, that sort of thing, and wanted to get into alternative energy. So sort of started there to figure out what policies we could write for people or really businesses in the clean tech space. And so that was there. I was doing everything from like program development. It was sort of like entrepreneurial work where I was doing all facets and all functions of getting a new program up and running. So it ended up becoming, especially in the later years, I was there for also about 5 years, becoming very heavy strategic partnerships and go to market broadly, which includes, of course, sales, marketing. So I wasn't doing sort of the traditional digital marketing, ads, Google, search optimization, none of that. It was more, how the heck do we get this thing to market, brute force, whatever it takes. So that was sort of my journey into then lead sales and marketing at the last company, the energy tech startup.
Okay, interesting. And when was Laudable founded?
So started the company back beginning of 2020 before doing any fundraising. So just bootstrapping for a little while. I was actually the only employee before we had a company name, before we had a website, was starting to sell this product, and originally was remotely produced customer testimonial videos. So started out with just me, brought on board after about, again, 1.5 years, Ryan, our first team member, and we sort of had a couple of evolutions since then.
Okay, and you're obviously CEO. I'm assuming there's not a co-founder then?
No co-founder. Nope. Yeah, just me, and we have 6 people full-time, depending on how you count.
Okay, cool. And those are a lot of people doing lots of different jobs then, given it's a startup, or what are the positions in the company? Who's
classic many hats? Yeah, classic many hats. We do have half the company is engineering, so we have 3 engineers, and then we've got Ryan and I, and a freelancer dabbling in a lot of the functions from customer success to marketing, content, sales, and so forth. Operations.
So you're running here one day, running over there the next day, and
yeah, exactly. Although we've been having GPT do a lot more of the operational and connective tissue tasks.
Yeah, good thinking. But tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind Laudable. What inspired you to create Laudable? Like I said in the intro here, it's helping companies unlock a new channel, right? By
Yeah.
like I said, amplifying the voices of most satisfied customers. So, what was the inspiration?
Yeah, so I think at Spark Fund, so yes, Laudable is all about finding your happiest customers and then putting them to work in selling and marketing for you. They're still the most credible voice you have, much more
Mm,
credible than the company itself. Us saying how great we are is our customers doing that for us and explaining why and how they use us. So my time at the energy tech startup was rife with lots of the pain that we're now solving at Laudable was experiencing a lot of that. So basically, we wanted to get customer stories and get really loud about the customers that we had and use that to say, hey, market, you should be buying us because look at these folks that
mm,
are already having success with us. And it was so much harder said that, or so much harder done than said or planned. Like actually doing that was just really complicated. We had to do video shoots in person where half our team was driving down or flying down to Miami from we're in
mm.
Boston or in DC, and just a whole rigmarole of actually getting from concept of customer story to a deliverable was really
Yeah.
complicated. We tried video, we tried written case studies, we kind of did all of these things, and they were all incredibly time consuming. There weren't tools that could help us, so there was really project management heavy, and the outputs of what we got were, I don't think, as versatile as they could have been, or as we wanted them to be in theory. So that to me was just a real opportunity to support through a combo of software and services. We're now more on the software side, but both have merit in companies showing off those happy customers. And then as we got in more and more with Laudable, realized that not only do folks have a hard time creating the content, but there's actually a pain around even identifying, especially at larger companies, identifying who your happiest customers are in the first place. And so we built this, where we built a lot of our tooling to start was in helping to identify at scale the folks who are happy in different segments, in different products, who use different features, et cetera.
And tell us a little bit about how that process works. How do you identify those customers? Obviously, you're taking these call recordings, for example, so integrations
Yeah.
with other tools such as, I'm assuming, tools like Gong or Chorus
Yeah.
and Zoom
Yeah,
and
exactly.
these. So how does the process work here?
Yeah, exactly. So one of the insights for me was that a lot of this data already exists. It was just hard to access. So when we are reaching out, blasting customers, hey, will you leave us a testimonial? Or hey, will you do a case study with us? A lot of the times that was a redundant ask, or it was, it's noisy. We're making so many asks of our customers. I think consolidating wherever we can is huge. And what we found was that especially suddenly during COVID, moved from, I don't know the exact market penetration, but moved from mostly nobody actually, or it moved from not many people actually recording their sales and customer success calls to nearly everyone in the spaces we were working in the segments and our customer base were starting to record all those calls. And they give you this such a rich data set in those call recordings for so many use cases, but certainly for the purpose of identifying who's happy and what successes and wins they're having. So we sort of had this theory of, hey, instead of asking all customers net new with a blank slate what kinds of wins they're having and if they're happy with you and if they want to participate in a case study, let's get smart about those asks, pull the data that we already have to identify who those people are and what they're saying, and then build on the asks. So if we can pre-draft a customer story based on the things they've already told us and have them just fill in the blanks, isn't that so much more efficient and makes everyone's lives a lot easier? So that's really what we do. We integrate with tools like Gong, Chorus, other call recording tools to identify happy customers using a combo of semantic searches, yes, of course, AI, to find who are these customers, what are they saying, and pull out those quotes to manage the workflows of asking them for approvals on the testimonials that we can generate from what they've said, the actual quotes, all the cool assets that can come downstream from identifying who that happy customer is and what they're saying.
Fantastic. Really, really smart idea. I mean, I'm standing here thinking as well, oftentimes, even kind of post, if a client or a customer has even left the company, depending on what you're offering, of course, but it's more, you often think, I'm going to ask for a testimonial or talk about this case study potentially when when they're no longer a customer or something. Okay, how how was your experience or something like this? But you kind of forget how much or what testimonials are actually being left in these kind of sometimes daily or weekly discussions that you're having with the client, right? And you're able to tap into that. Yeah,
Yeah.
really nice idea.
Yeah, exactly. It's a gold mine.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned AI, of course. No surprise, really. But you're using it in kind of extracting kind of key information from these call recordings. I'd imagine. Are you able to talk a little bit about how that's being done? Not specifically kind of how you're technically kind of extracting that data and information, but what are you using? How's it working? More high level.
Yeah, I mean, we've experimented with a whole bunch of things over the last year plus, and we have sort of a pipeline of processing these calls that involves similarity, semantic searches, involves validation and verification steps, pulling out most similar quotes. So there's a whole like pipeline of steps we've found to that works best. But basically, think of it like we first look for signals that someone is happy in quotes that are testimonials, sort of inline testimonials that are similar to what the company wants to be featuring. So like if your core functionality is case studies, for example, we're going to be looking for people talking about how they love, actually, let me start over, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So the like super high level, how it works is we're using a mix of semantic similarity searching along with AI and then GPT validation steps. So we've got experimented a whole bunch with the various ways that this can work, but we've now got an engine that works pretty well, scanning calls for signals that a customer is saying positive things, that their sentiment is positive, and then we're extracting the best quotes. And then in certain steps or in certain instances, we're then transforming that into a more AI polished testimonial, which basically just means we take out all the ums, sentence fragments that are the way that we all talk and turning those into something that's a little bit more website ready.
Got you. And when talking about kind of validation, and I'm assuming there's this kind of if a lot of these summaries or this extraction is done by AI, given, I mean, a lot of what we see is absolutely amazing. But when you're kind of summarizing it and you're using AI to summarize these testimonials, there's a lot of kind of verification that needs to be done, these kind of checks essentially, because this is obviously not somewhere where where you want the AI to be hallucinating, for example. You kind of, do you have these kind of, obviously you have these post checks in place. What does that process look like?
Yeah, I mean, without getting into the sort of like secret sauce of it, yes, we're basically confirming that what AI testimonials we generate are true to the sentiment of what was said on the call, and then eliminating them if not. It's funny, one of the things that we see the most, and we've now overcome, we have a sort of, again, proprietary process for overcoming this, but at first, one of the things we were seeing the most was what we call the shit sandwich, right? Kind of a compliment sandwich of them saying like, oh, I love working with Proxify, but, and then something like that. And they sort of use that caveat. And those are not obviously people that you want to be asking for a testimony, but we have no more budget left, or, but we're downsizing our team, those types of things. So eliminating those pretty recently has been a solid win, or at least reducing those to the extent possible. So things like that is sort of these like little nitty gritty examples where, oh, it's a testimonial, but for some reason, maybe it's actually not really a testimonial.
Right. Exactly. Interesting. And what does a typical customer look like for Laudable today? Yeah.
I mean, folks who are recording calls, right? So with like at least some number of sales or customer success team, we do have some customers where there's like only 2 or 3 CS reps. But in general, I think folks that get a ton of value of this are mid-market and enterprise who have multiple products, sometimes even multiple brands, multiple like segments and personas that they're working on, all of that, because it's harder to find and extract these insights without like doing that manually is really tough. We've had some customers who will say, oh, I spend Friday nights binge listening to gong calls on 2x speed to try to find these things. So sort of eliminating that, obviously that breaks, being able to do that manually breaks at a certain stage. So we've been seeing more recently these larger companies and have kind of beefed up security accordingly. But some of the larger companies seem to be getting a lot of value with what we're doing.
Fantastic. And I'm also interested to know a little bit about how or whether you help your customers to assess, or if you're able to assess the impact of these customer testimonials that you help capture and create for the clients on their
Yeah.
sales and marketing efforts, essentially.
Yeah.
Do
I
you
mean,
have
that's
any
kind
kind
of
of
the,
tangible, way of assessing that impact?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the holy grail, right? So we're starting to dive
Mm,
more into that realm. It's newer for us, but I think one of the things we're doing is we've been launching. It's in beta still, a Slack bot where basically any sales team users or other users beyond our particular primary user, who's oftentimes customer marketing, but those
mm,
other go-to-market teams, revenue teams, can ask the just ask Slack, right, for the right customer proof or the right customer quotes.
mm,
So that is where with that we're able to track how many inquiries there were, and then the goal is to start tracking how those are used on deals. So, for example, in the Slack bot, you can actually say, "Hey, my prospect is X." Like insert the name of the company, Spotify.
yeah.
Here's the name. Find me the best customer quotes and best customer proof to send to them or to share with them. And we'll use that information, enrich the data, like how many employees is Spotify, what industry are they
Mm,
in, what's their location, what was their use case when they first came to us, what were they asking for, what did they want. We're getting a lot of that data. Yes, some of it's just standard structured data, but then we're getting a lot of that from the call history as well, finding those
mm,
best matches, and then we can track that at a deal or an opportunity level, right? Is like on this prospect, on this opportunity, Spotify, what customer proof did I use? Did I use customer proof? And then how
mm,
is that attributing to, like, where does that go with the deal? How does the deal age? Does it a closed won opportunity? Is
yeah.
it closed loss? So being able to
Hmm.
track those metrics in aggregate is what we're moving towards.
Nice, lots of insight to be drawn. And I believe Laudable's fairly recently undergone some changes, right? Are you able to elaborate on these, the reasons behind them, and also the changes that these the effect that these changes had on your team, your approach to the market?
I think the big thing is just focusing more on the software side of our app, and less on the services that are where we started out. So we started out doing the customer remotely produced customer testimonials. We now have a partner that we work with on that front, and really have doubled down on the software, which means we're focusing on people who use call recording consistently. Although we do have some other data input mechanisms
Mm,
or sources that we've been working with. So it hasn't changed a ton our ICP, but we have narrowed in a bit, and it's clarified our pitch. So going into a call, we're not we're not having to triage and determine which route do we take this demo. We have
yeah,
a clearer path to, like, what is the one thing that we're really focused on selling.
fair enough. And are there lessons that you can talk about that you've learned from these changes, and that you could share with other founders, essentially?
I mean, I think the biggest both reason behind them and reminder in executing them as well is that everything is an iceberg. So it's
Mm,
really easy to think like, oh, this will be simple. I can do this and this, or I can do these two
mm,
things. And yeah, maybe you can. And but right, and maybe you could make it work even, but
yeah,
it's every single thing comes with its own set of complexities, its own set
mm,
of go to market plans, its own set
mm,
of communication with your team,
yeah,
things that you have to remember, things that you have to do. Like every single thing you're trying to do at the same time is
yeah,
an iceberg. So remembering that helps pare back to simpler than even you think it needs to be. This is something I'm teaching or telling myself every day.
yeah.
It helps actually win at one thing, because it's really hard when you're trying to do, it's already hard, right, but it's extra hard when you're trying to do multiple things at the same time.
Exactly. You can have a vision to be maybe, or it's relatively easy to be quite good at a lot of things, but not amazing at what thing, essentially. So
Yeah, yeah,
good
for
good
sure.
to keep the focus. What are some of the challenges that you faced whilst building Laudable? How have you overcome them?
I mean, I think it's still working through all sorts of challenges. Right? I don't know that it ever ends. Being a solo founder with a software business is certainly, that was an entire learning curve of figuring out how
Mm,
to build software. So that one was super challenging, and just I think immersing myself in doing it and figuring out, it's like, think of startups as the game is always changing. And when you get good at one stage of things and you get to the next level, then you have a whole new set of challenges that you're ill-equipped at first to handle. So it's always that dance. So, well, now there's a new thing to learn and figure out how to not be bad at.
You spoke a little bit earlier about some of the changes that you've been undergoing, but also and what came after that. I'm a little bit, just to rewind a little bit, intrigued about like the initial kind of stages of developing Laudable, and when other people came into the company. You've spoken about being a lone founder and everything. You've obviously got people that you can trust and rely on in different positions. Tell us a little bit about these initial stages and how you got these people in. Why did you look for external investment, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I think the early days when it was just me, not just me as a founder, but I was the only employee as well. I was the only person doing every single thing. It at a certain point became really hard. I was spending, like 70 hours a week just serving the customers we had, never mind trying to think about what to do beyond that or how we can get new customers. So at a certain point, I felt more reactive than proactive and realized that there were a lot of tasks that I was doing day to day that AI wasn't at the point where I could just, sort of delegate to a bot. And I don't know that the tasks were maybe a little more complex. So that was the first impetus for bringing on employee one, was saying, okay, let's find someone who can take a lot of these tasks so I can focus on growing the business. And sort of the classic, like, if you're working in the business, you can't work on the business trope. I think that just felt very true. So that was the motivation for both hiring the first employee and also joining Y Combinator and raising money. So that was back in the summer of 2021.
Fantastic. And this is maybe a chance for you to kind of sell Laudable for the listeners here. But what do you think is the biggest limitation of traditional kind of case studies today, and how does Laudable address this?
Oh, let me count thy ways. Just there's so many things, obviously, right? If you just think about the funnel of developing a case study, there's like barriers and challenges across every single stage. What I mean by that is identifying who you want and getting someone to opt in. That's sort of step one. That itself is really, really hard. So it's like, you've got to find someone who gives you logo rights and who is willing to invest the time to do a traditional case study. So I could go along that whole funnel and name the some of the challenges. But one other one I'll focus on is, once you get the content, what do you do with it? We've sometimes joked that website is where case studies go to die, which is not to say don't put your case study in the website. Absolutely do that. Customer stories, customer features, put on the website. Right? It's great for SEO. It's like you just want that there for reference when buyers are navigating around self-serve on your site. But a lot of times people will just put it there and do nothing else with it, and it's not fully leveraging the fact that you have this customer who said all these amazing things about you and shared data with about their successes and shared an actual story, right? So I think that's another big one, is that the way that case studies are today is most people, and have been for some number of years, is by the time you go through all the effort to get a case study and get the case study approved, I've heard nightmare stories of it takes 2 years to get to that stage on a particular story where someone was dragging their feet on the approval and the stakeholder or champion left. But, think of it, if you're lucky, it's maybe 3 to 4 months time, if that's like done really well. By the time you do that, most marketers are on to the next thing. So it's like the last thing they want or have time to do is to then figure out, how do we use the most of this or do the most with this? And then the enablement problem, right? So you have this case study on your website. Where do salespeople go to find the right customer data and stories to send to their prospects? Well, maybe the website, maybe your sales enablement platform, if you have one, but there's still a lot of pain there. They end up just DMing the customer marketer on Slack. Hey, what case study do we have for this prospect? Or what data do we have? What proof do we have that I can share with this? And they end up using like the same 4 case studies over and over. They just lob those over the fence to a prospect in the form of a PDF. How often do you think that prospect is really opening and reading and digesting that PDF? probably not super often. They might want to just talk to that customer, or they might just want to get the highlights of like the TLDR of what is impactful, what's important for their and relevant to them. So to me, it's much more valuable to be sharing the relevant data, not just sending over a giant PDF case study. So nothing wrong with the case study in a PDF format if it's in the mix of what you're doing, but it really is just scratching the surface of potential for using your happy customers to influence new deals.
Right, exactly. And, format and everything, like in this day and age, obviously with digital channels, marketing channels and everything, obviously, these more static PDFs are less compatible, you could say, than video, for example. But you spoke a little bit about logos and, how do customers go about, ensuring that they're going to choose testimonials from those companies or clients that will or should approve those testimonials, right? How do you kind of help your customers in that step?
In the logo rights, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's where reconsidering format and framing makes a big impact. So, for example, instead of saying to a customer, "Hey, will you participate in a case study?" and then producing a giant long thing that they're basically doing you a favor, or they're contractually obligated to do it because you signed that in the contract, which is smart. Instead of that, rethinking what would actually benefit them and what type of format they might be interested in participating. We've seen one great hack is once you find someone who is happy and has had successes with you, instead of saying, "Hey, can you do a case study with you?" and like we'll run it through the red tape of trying to get it approved by your legal team, it's saying, "Hey, will you participate in a customer spotlight webinar?" Gainsight does a fantastic job with this. And that is a community-oriented webinar where you can share details, your use case. That customer can speak to those things with their peers, with like a group of their like-minded peers. And that is a networking opportunity for them. It's a sort of, I hate the term, but thought leadership opportunity for them. And that tends to see much higher approval rates and it's effectively, at the end of the day, you get something that's very similar, which is a long form interview plus content piece that goes into the nitty gritty of their use case and their results. So that's one example. The other example would be instead of asking for a case study is getting a quote. Like getting a single quote approved is oftentimes a lot easier than always almost, right? Easier than getting an entire hundreds of quotes in the form of a PDF or a web page with their logo on it. So just rethinking that format and the framing of the ask, I think are the big things there.
Nice. And you mentioned before, obviously we were talking about kind of, still important to have case studies and these testimonials on a company's website, of course. I think good, like you were saying, for SEO reasons, also good that when potential clients, prospects are landing on the web page, they have something to look at, right? This social proof. But obviously, a lot of the marketing efforts are kind of, social media channels now. So a lot of it is kind of video content, and people want to see and get information very, very quickly, not, long articles or even long videos, for example. So your company is helping others create these testimonials, a lot of the kind of video and audio content that their customers are talking about. These calls, for example, can be quite long. I'm assuming these testimonials in length can be, range in length really. But when it comes to your customers then using this in their sales and marketing material in order to, essentially get clicks, do you help them in kind of editing, cutting the testimonials to suit them, or is this something that they do? Do you just kind of deliver the whole testimonial, so to speak?
I think it depends on what they're doing with us and what their goals are. I don't think there's actually one answer for that. I have a maybe surprising contrarian take given the business I have, but I think a lot of folks now are like, oh, video, right? No one wants to read. Everyone wants to watch videos and we should only be doing videos. I actually don't think that's at all true. I think everyone has a different method of consumption that they prefer, and video is nice in combination with text. I don't actually love to watch a ton of long videos unless I really need a tutorial on something. But sometimes the presence of video adds credibility. So I think it's just more about being multimodal in the formats and knowing your persona what type of ways they want to be consuming, and then giving that optionality. The CMO at ZoomInfo, Brian Law, had a great quote that I'm going to forget or butcher, but he was talking about the right way to do customer proof was not to just have one format of an asset,
right,
but along the customer journey to match the level of detail and the length of that proof to where they are in the journey. Right at the very beginning, they may just want a logo. They just want to see a logo for credibility.
Exactly.
And then they're a little more interested, and they're talking to a sales rep, and maybe they want some stats. And then they're really considering and sending around content for the rest of their buying committee to consider the purchase. And at that point, they may actually need a full long form written case study. And then signing the proposal, sort of that last step. And at that point, maybe they just need a video to kind of confirm, okay, this is the right decision that we're making. So I think thinking about it as like these unfurlable content pieces, that the detail matches the stage of the buying journey they're in and what they actually need, is something that he was talking about, and that more people, I think, should be doing.
Yeah, really interesting point. Yeah, adapting the content, what you're showing to the customer's journey and where they are on that journey. Yeah, very interesting point. What ways do you think these kind of digital transformations that we're seeing now as well will impact how companies like yours create and your clients who use these case studies? What do you see kind of moving forward? What plans might you have for Laudable?
I think the biggest thing is, with our Slack bot, is giving people the right proof they need at the right time that's personalized and relevant. So being able to enter your prospect and get back data points and a page that you can share with your prospect. It's like this on-demand case study content creation. I think that is so much more powerful than just creating a whole bunch of crap that you think sales wants, and then letting them fend for themselves to find it. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I think there's a real shift in how we can actually find the right information for the right person at the right time.
Yeah. No. We also know that you have this kind of sales and marketing background. At least immediately before founding Laudable. I'm interested also to kind of get your take in the this evolving landscape of digital marketing, and what strategies you've found in the past and also with Laudable now to be most effective in kind of building a strong brand presence, essentially, and driving this user engagement. You've spoken a little bit about adapting offerings and whatever it might be to the customer and where they are in their kind of customer journey. Can you talk a little bit about kind of effective ways in building a strong brand presence?
I mean, we're so early days, right? And still working on it. But from a philosophy perspective, for me, I think things have changed a lot, right? That's not news to anyone. Who we trust has changed. We no longer are trusting companies. We're trusting people. We're finding information on our own. Like all of the swirling things going on in the broader market and just landscape of technology capabilities. How crowded things are. I am not of the mind that we've got to do big splashy brand campaigns, or that we need to, drill people's email inboxes and pepper them with more and more asks. To me, it's creating valuable content. And this has been true for a while, right? But like creating valuable content or tools that people can access for free on their own time, and sort of nurture them with that type of content that semi relates to your product. Right. So we launched Grade My Case Study, which was a tool to be able to just free tool to drop in without any login, to drop in a link of a case study and have it graded, right? AI would grade across our rubric and tell them how is this case study, give them some suggestions for improving it. That doesn't lead directly, like we're not going to go email them for a demo call if they enter that, but puts them on our radar as like, maybe this is someone who might need what we're providing someday. It lets us build a relationship. So I think we try to put out content that breaks the mold. Two fronts, right? One is provides value and some sort of valuable insight or action that they can take, i.e. grade my case study. And then two is just be weird and entertain. So Ryan on our team is super funny. If you haven't seen his content, does a lot of TikTok, and it's just weird and different from what people are generally doing on LinkedIn. And it's just fun, right? If nothing else, it makes people laugh and have fun in their workday. I think those are the two aspects that we're trying to do with our content, and just acknowledge that sales cycles are a little bit longer right now, and we're trying to get to know people earlier on so we can convert them whenever the time is right.
And I'm also interested a little bit about kind of your kind of the grand plans that you might have for Laudable, kind of moving forward into future years. You said you founded Laudable back in 2020, right?
2020, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that you're working. Is it a remote setup among the kind of 5-6 people?
We are, yeah.
Yeah. And what's the plan moving forward? I don't know kind of how far forward you think or want to think, of course, but in terms of markets that you see good kind of movement or kind of penetration in now, what are your plans for Laudable?
I mean, I'm just excited to give more people within an org access to the power of customer proof, right? So I'm sort of thinking about this ChatGPT for customer data angle around giving more of the organization access to those nuggets of information that they otherwise have to ask people for or run complicated reports around. So I think customer proof traditionally is like a marketing thing, and maybe marketing branching into sales. But I really think customer success, like the entire pre and post sale function, which is effectively the entire organization, can benefit from this type of information. So I think I am excited about the direction of incorporating what we're doing now, identifying, constructing relevant customer proof and customer intel to more folks throughout the organization.
Fantastic. And any plans for external investment or kind of growing the company this way, or
TBD?
Nothing
to share on that front at this moment. Yeah, I'll have to stay tuned.
Fair enough. Nice. I don't know if you'd like to add anything at the moment, Angela, at this moment, or before I wrap up, basically.
I don't think so. I think you covered a lot of ground.
Nice. Brilliant. And thank you very much for the insightful answers. And this wraps up another insightful episode of Builders. Huge thank you to you, Angela, for joining us today and sharing the journey of Laudable so far. I think it's clear that the future of customer engagement and case studies is vibrant, evolving. I'm super impressed by what you guys are doing and in kind of extracting this information, creating these testimonials with the help of AI. I think it's a super exciting journey that you guys are on. And yes, thanks very much to everybody listening. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and to catch every episode of Builders, where we are deep diving into the stories behind entrepreneurs and their innovations. I'm Lee. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, keep on building.